My stepbrother accidentally stabbed me because he was jealous of my birthday trip to Greece and got cut from my mom's will afterwards. Now he's begging for help. I, 18M, come from what you could call a blended family situation. My biological dad passed away when I was 5 due to a car accident. It was just my mom Karen, 45F, and me for several years after that. My early memories with my dad are mostly of him reading me Greek mythology stories before bed. He was a professor of ancient history and had this amazing way of bringing the stories to life. Even after he passed, I kept up with learning about Greek history and mythology because it made me feel connected to him. My mom had a rough time after dad died. She focused entirely on raising me and didn't date anyone for years. Then when I was 11, she met Nolan, 47M, at a business conference. They dated for about a year before getting married when I was 12. Nolan had a son, Ryan, 19M, from his previous marriage. Ryan's mom lived in Florida after the divorce and saw him every few months. At first, everything seemed perfect. Ryan and I got along fine. We weren't best friends, but we respected each other's space. We would play video games together sometimes and sit together at family dinners. Nolan was nice to me and always remembered my birthday and school events. My mom tried her best to make Ryan feel included in our family too. She would always buy us equal gifts and never showed any favoritism. The dynamic started changing 3 years ago when my mom decided to start her own business. She had been working in corporate marketing for years and finally decided to take the risk of starting her own marketing agency. She worked incredibly hard. I remember her staying up late most nights, missing family dinners, and working weekends to make it successful. Her hard work paid off, and within 2 years, her agency became one of the top marketing firms in our city. With success came more financial freedom. My mom started being able to afford nicer things for our family. When Ryan turned 18 last year, she helped Nolan buy him a car, a nice Toyota Camry that Ryan had been wanting. She contributed almost half of the cost because she wanted to make sure Ryan had a reliable car for college. Ryan seemed happy with the gift at the time and even hugged my mom and thanked her for being so generous. About 6 months ago, my mom started dropping hints about planning something special for my 18th birthday. She would ask me random questions about what I knew about Greek tourism and whether I had a passport. I had a feeling she was planning something related to Greece but didn't want to get my hopes up. Then at my birthday dinner last month, she made the big announcement. She had planned a 2-week trip to Greece for us, including visits to Athens, Delphi, and several islands. She had remembered all the specific places I had mentioned wanting to visit over the years. She even planned the trip around the archaeological sites that my dad had written about in his unfinished book. The moment she announced it, I could see Ryan's face change. He kept a smile plastered on, but his eyes showed how angry he was. During dinner, he kept making comments like, "Wow, must be nice to get such expensive gifts, and I guess some people are just luckier than others." My mom tried to keep things positive and even mentioned how much she had enjoyed helping pick out Ryan's car last year. After dinner, I overheard Ryan having a heated argument with his dad. He was saying things like, "How can you let her show such obvious favoritism? And it's not fair that he gets an international trip while I only got a car." Nolan tried to explain that the car was also an expensive gift and that this trip had special meaning because of my connection to Greek history through my dad. But Ryan wouldn't listen. That's when the problems really started. Ryan began his campaign to sabotage the trip. First, it was subtle things, leaving news articles about tourist scams in Greece on the kitchen counter, or casually mentioning stories about Americans getting robbed in Athens during family dinners. Then it escalated. He started accidentally misplacing important documents I needed for the visa application. One time, I left my laptop open while going to the bathroom, and when I came back, I found that several important emails about visa appointments had been deleted from my inbox. The only other person home at the time was Ryan. He even started spreading rumors in our extended family about how I was planning to abandon my college plans and stay in Greece permanently. He told our grandparents that he had overheard me talking about applying to Greek universities without my mom's knowledge. This caused unnecessary drama and made my mom have to explain our travel plans to concerned relatives. The worst part was how he tried to manipulate Nolan. He would make comments about how his dad couldn't afford to send him on international trips, making Nolan feel bad about not being as financially successful as my mom. I could see how much this hurt Nolan, who worked really hard at his job but simply didn't earn as much as my mom's successful business. A few days ago, Ryan came to my room and tried to make a deal. He said if I convinced my mom to either cancel the trip or include him, he would stop causing problems. I refused because this trip means so much more than just a vacation to me. It's about connecting with my mom and honoring my dad's memory through our shared interest in Greek culture. Also, Ryan has never shown any interest in history or archaeology. He would probably just complain the whole time about how boring the museums and archaeological sites were. Now Ryan and Nolan are both telling me I'm being selfish and creating a divide in the family. They say I should share this experience with my stepbrother since we're supposed to be family. Ryan keeps saying that my mom is showing obvious favoritism and it's hurting him deeply. My mom says I shouldn't feel guilty because this trip is about more than just a vacation, it's about connecting with my dad's memory too. She says Ryan needs to learn that he can't always get what he wants just because someone else has something nice. But after all the pressure from Ryan and Nolan, part of me wonders if I'm being unfair by not wanting to share this experience with my stepbrother. So Ida? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I'm writing this from a hospital bed with 15 stitches in my arm. Things have gotten so much worse than I could have imagined. Let me explain everything that happened since my last post. After I posted here, Ryan's behavior became even more concerning. He started following me around the house constantly with his phone out, recording everything I did or said. He would hide behind corners or doors, trying to catch me saying or doing something that would make my mom cancel the trip. If I was on the phone with friends, he would stand right outside my door to eavesdrop. I couldn't even have a private conversation with my mom without him lurking nearby. The situation got so bad that I started feeling like a prisoner in my own home. I had to check every room before entering to see if Ryan was there with his phone. I started texting my friends instead of calling them because I was worried about Ryan recording my conversations. I even started taking my school books to the local library just to get some peace. My mom noticed how uncomfortable I was getting and tried to talk to Nolan about Ryan's behavior. Nolan kept dismissing it as Ryan just being worried about my safety because Greece could be dangerous for tourists. He said Ryan was just being a concerned brother. My mom pointed out that following someone around with a phone and recording them wasn't normal concerned behavior, but Nolan wouldn't listen. 3 days ago, everything came to a head. It was around 6 p.m., and I was helping my mom prepare dinner in the kitchen. We were making pasta and talking about our plans for Greece. My mom had just shown me some photos of this beautiful hotel she had booked in Santorini with amazing views of the ocean. We were excited about watching the sunset from our balcony. As usual, Ryan was hovering around the kitchen entrance with his phone pointed at us. He kept interrupting our conversation with comments about how tourists in Santorini often got food poisoning, or how hotel balconies in Greece weren't as safe as ones in America. He even pulled up some random blog post about a tourist who got robbed in Athens and started reading it out loud while we were trying to talk. My mom finally lost her patience. She had been trying to stay calm and reasonable for weeks, but Ryan's behavior was getting ridiculous. She told him to either help with dinner preparation or leave the kitchen. She said his negative attitude was getting tiresome and if he couldn't be supportive, he needed to find somewhere else to be. That's when Ryan completely lost it. He started yelling about how nobody ever included him in anything anymore. He said my mom was trying to create distance between him and the family by taking me on this special trip. He grabbed the knife I had been using to chop vegetables, it was a pretty big chef's knife, and started waving it around while he was ranting. My mom immediately told him to put the knife down, but he wouldn't listen. He kept gesturing with it while talking about how unfair everything was. I could see my mom was getting really scared. She tried to reach for her phone on the counter, probably to call Nolan, but Ryan noticed and got even more agitated. I thought if I could just get the knife away from him, things would calm down. I took a step toward him, thinking maybe I could grab his wrist or something. But when I moved forward, Ryan stepped backward quickly. That's when our cat, Luna, who had wandered into the kitchen to see what all the commotion was about, got under his feet. Ryan tripped over Luna and started falling. As he fell, the knife he was holding caught my arm. I immediately felt this sharp, burning pain and saw blood starting to pour out. My mom screamed and rushed to grab a kitchen towel to press on the wound. Ryan just sat there on the floor, still holding the knife, looking shocked. My mom called 911 while keeping pressure on my arm. The whole time, Ryan kept saying it was an accident and he never meant to hurt me. He started crying and apologizing, but my mom told him to stay away from us. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics said the cut was deep and would need immediate attention. My mom called Nolan at work and told him to meet us at the hospital. While we waited for him to arrive, my mom was absolutely furious. I had never seen her so angry. When Nolan finally got there, she took him into the hallway. Even though my hospital room door was closed, I could hear them arguing. That's when I heard my mom tell Nolan something I'd never known before. Apparently, she had been planning to include Ryan in her will. She was going to leave him a significant portion of her business shares, just like she was doing for me. She said she had always thought of him as a son and wanted to secure his future too. But after this incident, she was removing him completely. Nolan tried to defend Ryan, saying it was just an unfortunate accident and Ryan was just feeling emotional and left out. But my mom had security camera footage from the kitchen showing how Ryan had been harassing us before the incident. She said this wasn't just an accident, it was the result of weeks of escalating hostile behavior. Now my phone is flooded with messages from both Ryan and Nolan. Ryan keeps saying he'll do anything to make it right and begging me to talk to my mom. Nolan is sending long messages about how this will affect Ryan's entire future and how I need to help fix things because we're family. The doctors want to keep me here another day for observation because I lost quite a bit of blood. They say the scar will be permanent. The trip to Greece has been postponed until my arm heals properly. My mom hasn't left my side and says she's going to install more security cameras at home. She's also talking to a lawyer about getting a restraining order against Ryan. I haven't responded to any of their messages. Honestly, I'm kind of scared of Ryan now. I never thought he would go this far just because he was jealous of a vacation. Part of me feels bad about him losing his inheritance, but another part of me thinks he brought this on himself with his obsessive behavior. Update 2. It's been a month since I got out of the hospital, and everything has completely fallen apart in our family. The tension in the house after the knife incident was unbearable. My mom insisted that either Ryan had to move out or we would. She said she couldn't sleep knowing that Ryan was in the same house as me, especially after what happened in the kitchen. Nolan spent the first week after the incident begging my mom to reconsider, saying Ryan was truly sorry and would get counseling. But my mom wouldn't budge. She told Nolan that she had given Ryan too many chances already and she couldn't risk my safety anymore. After a lot of arguments and tears, Nolan finally agreed to send Ryan to live with his mom in Florida. The day before Ryan was supposed to leave, something happened that changed everything. Ryan had stormed out after another argument where he was trying to convince my mom to let him stay. In his rush, he left his phone on the kitchen counter. My mom noticed it was constantly buzzing with message notifications from his mom. Usually, my mom would never look through someone's phone, but given everything that had happened, she decided to check. What she found was shocking. There were months of messages between Ryan and his mom, planning different ways to sabotage my trip to Greece. His mom had been sending him links to crime stories from Greece, telling him which ones would scare my mom the most. She suggested he should spread rumors about me planning to stay in Greece permanently, knowing it would worry our relatives. She even advised him to delete my emails about visa appointments, saying it would make me look irresponsible. But the most disturbing messages were from the day before the knife incident. Ryan had told his mom he was going to create a big scene to show everyone how dangerous I was. His plan was to provoke me into a fight and then claim self-defense. His mom had actually encouraged this plan, telling him to make sure he recorded everything so they could prove I was the aggressor. The messages showed that Ryan had been planning to hurt me and make it look like my fault. The only reason it didn't go according to plan was because he tripped over our cat. His mom's response to him actually cutting me was to tell him to stick to their story about it being an accident and to play up how sorry he was. When my mom showed these messages to Nolan, he finally stopped defending Ryan. He just sat there reading them over and over, getting paler by the minute. Then he started crying, saying he couldn't believe his son could be so calculating and cruel. He apologized to me and my mom repeatedly for not believing how serious the situation was. My mom immediately contacted her lawyer. She's not only removed Ryan from her will and business succession plans, but she's also filing for a restraining order. Ryan has been creating new social media accounts to contact me after we block him, and he's been sending emails from different addresses. Each message switches between apologizing and blaming me for ruining his life. His mom has also started calling and texting my mom, claiming we're overreacting to normal teenage jealousy. She says Ryan's future will be ruined if my mom removes him from her will. She even tried to claim that the messages were just jokes and we were misinterpreting them. But it's hard to misinterpret messages literally planning to hurt someone. Nolan hasn't spoken to Ryan's mom since we found the messages. He said he never knew she was this manipulative or that she had been encouraging Ryan's worst behaviors. He's been sleeping in the guest room and barely talks to anyone. I can tell he's struggling to process everything. Some extended family members who don't know the full story are giving us a hard time. They think my mom is being too harsh and that families should forgive each other. But they haven't seen the messages or the security camera footage from the kitchen. They didn't see how methodically Ryan planned to hurt me just because he was jealous. My arm is healing, but the scar is a constant reminder of what happened. Every time I look at it, I think about how my stepbrother was willing to seriously hurt me just because he was jealous of a vacation. The worst part is knowing that it wasn't just a moment of anger, it was something he planned with his mom's encouragement. My mom says she feels guilty for not seeing the signs earlier. She really tried to treat Ryan like her own son, and finding out that he and his mom had been plotting against us this whole time has really hurt her. She's talking about selling the house and moving because there are too many bad memories here now. Update 3, it's been 6 months since everything happened, and I'm writing this from our hotel room in Athens. My arm has healed well, though the scar is still visible. The doctors say it will probably always be noticeable, but honestly, I don't mind it as much anymore. It's a reminder of how close I came to letting toxic people ruin something special for me. A lot has changed in these 6 months. Nolan moved out last month after living in our guest room for several months. He and my mom tried to make things work, but the trust was completely broken. They're getting divorced, and surprisingly, it's been pretty civil. Nolan finally admitted that he had always struggled with my mom being more successful than him. He said it made him defensive of Ryan's behavior because he understood feeling less than in our family. The most interesting development is what's happening with Ryan in Florida. We've heard through mutual friends that he's telling a completely different version of what happened. According to him, I got aggressive when he questioned me about the Greece trip, and he had to defend himself. He's showing people the cut on his hand that he got when he fell while holding the knife, claiming it proves he was the real victim. What Ryan doesn't know is that my mom's lawyer has compiled a solid file of evidence, the security camera footage, the messages between him and his mom planning to hurt me, and all the emails he's sent from different accounts harassing me. My mom says we might need it if he tries anything else in the future. His mom has been causing problems too. She's been contacting our relatives, telling them that my mom is cruel for cutting Ryan out of her will just because of one little accident. She conveniently leaves out the part where she helped Ryan plan that accident. Some relatives who don't know the whole story have been pressuring us to forgive Ryan since he's family. They keep saying things like blood isn't everything and blended families need more understanding. But we have no intention of letting Ryan or his mom back into our lives. My mom has already changed her business succession plans. Instead of splitting the shares between Ryan and me like she originally planned, she's now setting up a trust that will not only secure my future but also fund scholarships for students studying archaeology, a tribute to my dad's passion. My mom and I are closer than ever now. We're having an amazing time exploring Greece together. Yesterday, we visited the Acropolis, and my mom surprised me by pulling out one of my dad's old journals. Apparently, he had written about his dreams of taking us here someday. Reading his words while standing in the places he wrote about was an incredible experience. We've already started planning more trips together. Next year, we're thinking of visiting Egypt since that was another place my dad loved to study. It feels like we're honoring his memory while building new memories of our own. As for Nolan, he still sends occasional messages checking in on us. He's in therapy now, working through his own issues about money and success. He's apologized multiple times for not seeing Ryan's behavior for what it was. I don't hate him, I just feel sad that he let his own insecurities blind him to his son's dangerous behavior. The house is on the market now. My mom and I both agree we need a fresh start somewhere without all these difficult memories. We're looking at places closer to where my mom's business is located, and honestly, it feels right. Sometimes the best way to heal is to leave the past behind and start fresh. Some people might think we're being too harsh by cutting Ryan out completely, but I've learned that just because someone is family doesn't mean they deserve unlimited chances to hurt you. Real family doesn't plot to harm you just because they're jealous. They don't try to ruin something meaningful to you just because they can't have it too. This whole experience has taught me that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being over keeping peace in the family. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from toxic relationships, even if those relationships are with family members.